My fiancé left me alone with a $4,000 bill after dinner with his family to see if I was a gold digger, but my test was to prove that he and his mother weren't, well, together. When Alex told me he had a surprise for me, I felt a mix of excitement and nerves. We had only been engaged for a few weeks and were still getting used to it. He told me he wanted to celebrate our engagement with his family at a fancy restaurant. I thought it was his way of showing he wanted to integrate our lives, but things didn't add up from the start. I asked him if I should invite my family too, but he refused. He insisted that his mother wanted to make this a big occasion just for his side of the family. Alex had a tendency to follow his mother's instructions, so it didn't completely surprise me, but this felt excessive. I asked him why we couldn't just have a simple dinner at home or a smaller outing, but he said no. He said it was about making a good impression, adding that his family was excited to formally meet me. I gently pushed, asking if going to such an exclusive place was really necessary. Alex laughed and told me not to overthink it. He assured me his family loved celebrating in style and hinted that his mother had already made the arrangements. The tone he used made me uneasy, but I let it go. After all, I told myself, it was just how his family did things. When the night arrived, I got dressed up with special care. I didn't want to feel out of place in such a luxurious setting. Alex looked impeccable in his suit, and as we drove to the restaurant, I tried to calm my nerves. He assured me his family was delighted about our engagement and couldn't wait to celebrate. I wanted to believe him. The restaurant was even more luxurious than I had imagined. Gold chandeliers, marble floors, and waiters dressed in spotless black uniforms. Stepping inside felt like I had crossed into another world. Alex's family was already seated, and they greeted me cordially, though with a formality that made me uncomfortable. His mother was impeccably dressed and had a presence that radiated authority, fitting the ostentatious atmosphere. She smiled at me, but I knew that when she looked at me, she was evaluating me. His father was a more reserved man. He nodded politely, while his brothers exchanged brief greetings. The evening started well, but as time went on, the conversation took a strange turn. My future mother-in-law asked me about my job with a light tone, but I knew she really wanted that answer. She seemed interested in the details of my career and subtly mentioned Alex's success multiple times, emphasizing how well he was doing. I responded politely, but I felt the implied comparison. My job was stable and satisfying, but it didn't come with the huge salary that Alex had. His mother's questions got more specific until I felt like I was being interrogated. When the waiter came to take our order, my mother-in-law encouraged everyone to order whatever they wanted. Alex joined in, saying it was a special night. They ordered the most expensive dishes on the menu: lobster, prime rib, fine wines, and desserts. I had my doubts because each dish cost more than I would pay for a dinner for four. Alex gave me a light nudge and told me to order something good, so I did, though more modestly. As the meal went on, my mother-in-law's tone started changing. She began making sarcastic comments about relationships and financial stability, glancing at me after she finished speaking. His brothers occasionally chimed in, joining in on their mother's whole circus. I tried to focus on enjoying the food, but the atmosphere was getting more and more uncomfortable. By the time dessert arrived, I just wanted the night to be over. I wanted us to ask for the check and leave, but I couldn't just walk out. I could tolerate some awkward moments for Alex's sake. Then the check arrived. The waiter placed it discreetly on the table, and I saw Alex's mother glance at it before turning her attention to me. Alex leaned towards me casually and mentioned that I should take care of paying for it as a gesture of goodwill for the engagement. I had my moment of doubt. I asked, "Take care of what?" Because it was clear I wouldn't be able to pay for anything from that place. He smiled at me and explained that it would be a nice way to show my commitment to the family. The whole family was watching me, waiting for my response, whether I would pay or not. I stammered, trying to explain that I couldn't possibly cover a bill from that place. Alex's expression turned serious as he told me I should have anticipated this situation and that it was a simple gesture. I felt a lump in my throat as I looked at the bill, $4,000. I thought my soul had flown away from me to escape that amount. I told Alex that I didn't earn anywhere near what he did and that this was completely outside my possibilities. I asked him why he hadn't informed me about this beforehand. My mother-in-law chimed in just to suggest that I could call someone to help me out if I was really in a bind. The smile that went with it was meant to humiliate me with this situation, and it was working because it was incredibly uncomfortable. Alex stood up and said he would let me sort it out and left the restaurant without saying another word. I was frozen in my seat while his family followed him in silence. The waiter approached, asking if I needed help. Holding back tears, I called my best friend. I didn't want to involve her, but I had no other choice. I asked her what I should do about this. She told me to calm down and pay only my part, not one more cent. She assured me that I deserved better than this and to keep her updated. She agreed because it seemed fair to me. It also seemed fair to leave Alex and his family with the unpaid bill, because that's what they had done to me. Luckily, although everything on the menu was expensive, I hadn't ordered anything extravagant compared to some of the things you could find. I reached into my purse, took out my wallet, and handed my credit card to the waiter. I asked him to charge me only for my part of the dinner and split the rest of the bill among Alex's family. He looked at me kind of suspiciously but didn't say anything. After a few minutes, the manager came over, probably noticing the uncomfortable situation. I explained that my fiancé and I had just broken up and that I wouldn't be responsible for the cost of a dinner his family had organized. I gave him Alex's contact information and told him that any outstanding balance should be directed to him. The manager was quite understanding about the situation. He asked for information about Alex's family members, but since I didn't have it, I gave him his best friend's contact as well as his home and office address. When I signed the receipt for my part of the bill, I felt a lot better. I was calmer knowing I had found a solution, but that calmness was mixed with anger. I left the restaurant, ordered a taxi, and sent a message to my friend, telling her I was heading home. I didn't want to drag her further into this mess, especially after her kindness in helping me stay calm. But her response came right away. I'm on my way. When I got home, I put on my most comfortable clothes and settled on the couch with a cup of tea. A little while later, messages from Alex started coming in. At first, they were casual, asking if I had sorted out the bill and thanking me for taking care of it. My stomach churned, realizing how little he valued me. But later, he found out I hadn't paid the full bill, so the tone was very different. He accused me of embarrassing his family by refusing to pay the bill and claimed his mother had been right from the start, that I was selfish, a gold digger, and wasn't marriage material. By the time he called, I had already decided not to answer. Moments later, a text message came in. I couldn't believe I had humiliated him in front of his family and failed his mother's test. Now the whole dinner made sense. They didn't want a celebration with his side of the family. They wanted to test me to see if I was good enough to join their family. His mother had always been critical of me, questioning if I was good enough for her precious son, and the worst part wasn't my mother-in-law, but Alex, who had agreed to the idea of setting this trap for me at the restaurant. I had already seen this as a breakup, because if my fiancé would abandon me in a place with a bill to pay, then there was no point in getting married. But with the messages, there was no doubt that this was not how you treat someone you loved, which I guess was never the case. What kind of human garbage does something like that? Later, my friend arrived and we talked, but it basically served as a way to vent because my mind was already made up anyway. I loved that my friend was there for me. The next morning, I felt refreshed, feeling much better and wanting to be proactive. I blocked Alex and his whole family on every platform, cutting off any possibility of contact. I didn't want to hear their excuses or their justifications. It was completely over, and there was no turning back. Later that same day, I received a call from the restaurant manager. He informed me that Alex, although reluctantly, had covered the remaining balance of the bill. I could notice the relief in his voice, and I thanked him for his professionalism in such an uncomfortable situation. Over the next few days, I tried to relax and clear my head from the whole thing. I spent time with my friends, had some important work stuff to do, and acted like my life was starting over. About 2 weeks later, I received an email from Alex's mother, which was the only way I hadn't blocked her, though this was because I didn't know her email address at the time. Now I do. It was to tell me how much I liked playing the victim over something insignificant. She said the dinner had been a harmless test to make sure I was ready for the responsibilities of marriage, and that I had failed. Maybe to her, a $4,000 bill was insignificant. To me, who has to work a whole month for it, it's a matter of life and death. I haven't replied and I don't plan to. I've even blocked her right now. The only thing that email was good for was confirming that I dodged a bullet, both with Alex and his family. I don't think he'll ever realize the favor he did me. The test in the end was for them, and they failed. Update 1. So, you asked for more of my story, and this update is for you. I spent the next few days getting ready for what I had to do. Although I had already blocked Alex on every platform, there was one last loose end: the ring. From where I'd left it on my dresser, it was looking at me, reminding me that I had to finish with all this. Returning? It felt like the final step to close this chapter once and for all. I wasn't going to mail it or leave it with a doorman. I wanted him to see me hand it to him so he would know that I wasn't the one who failed the test. But him. On Saturday morning, I dressed with confidence, choosing a stylish and polished look that radiated self-confidence. If I was going to end things with Alex, I wouldn't do it submissively or on his terms. When I got to his luxurious apartment building, I didn't even bother to text him or call him to let him know I was there. Instead, I walked to the reception desk and asked them to call him down. The receptionist complied with my request and notified him. It wasn't long before he came down. He smiled at me, probably thinking I was there to blame myself or beg him to take me back, but I showed him the ring so he'd know exactly why I wasn't there. I also told him that we were over, so there would be no doubt about what I was doing, that this was finished and I wasn't going to waste another second of my life as his and his mother's fiancé. I made it clear that I had paid my part of the dinner and that I made sure the rest of the bill was sent to him, which I expected him to pay. By this point, the people in the lobby were already watching. The receptionist made a poor attempt to pretend she wasn't listening, and some residents leaving the building had stopped to look. I didn't care, but Alex did. If Alex had wanted to humiliate me by leaving me alone with a $4,000 bill, I had no problem making this breakup as public as necessary. He tried to interrupt me, stammering that I was exaggerating, that his mother just wanted to make sure I was serious about joining his family. I shut him down immediately. I told him it wasn't his mother's place to test me or decide my worth, and that the truly embarrassing thing was that a man in his 30s couldn't make decisions without his mom dictating even when he could go to the bathroom. He looked around uncomfortably, noticing the eyes on him, but I wasn't finished. I told him that if he wanted to get married so badly, he should marry his mother, which seemed like a good idea to me due to the emotional incest they were living. Saying incest in a luxury apartment lobby is one of those things that would get attention. I took the ring and threw it on the coffee table in the lobby without bothering to put it in his hand. I suggested he better give it to his mother, since she seemed intent on controlling every aspect of his life. His face turned red with fury and shame as he told me to calm down and that we should take the conversation upstairs. I told him I would never set foot in his apartment again. I wouldn't risk being the mistress in the relationship between him and his mother. He wanted to negotiate to find a middle ground, but I told him I wasn't open to negotiation or discussion. It was a done deal. I was breaking up with him and his whole toxic circle, and the final blow came when I looked him directly in the eyes and told him he shouldn't reconsider marriage until he learned to stand on his own emotionally and use the few brain cells he had left, that he wasn't ready to be anyone's partner because all he would do was drag any woman into the miserable life he led. By then, Alex could barely articulate a coherent response. He was furious and humiliated, but I didn't care. I turned around and left the building. The drive home was silent, giving me time to reflect. The breakup had been messy and public, yes, but it had also been necessary. In the days that followed, I also blocked his email and deleted all photos and messages that tied me to him. I was completely done with that relationship. Update 2. Life after breaking up with Alex had been surprisingly quiet, but these things never are. My mom, noticing how exhausted I was, came to stay with me for a few days to help me recover. Having her around was exactly what I needed. We spent time catching up, watching some weekend comedy marathons, and talking about everything and nothing. That morning, we had just settled in with coffee and breakfast when we heard a knock at the door. We weren't expecting anyone and hadn't ordered anything to go with breakfast, and judging by the way they were knocking, we didn't expect the visitor to be friendly. The knocking turned into even louder banging. My mom said something about how people had forgotten good manners as she headed for the door. She didn't even ask who it was before opening it. The only person I could think of who felt the world owed her something enough to knock like that was Alex's mother. She didn't ask if she could come in, she demanded it, saying she needed to talk to me about the damage I had done to her son and her family. My mom didn't move from the doorway. Instead, she crossed her arms and gave Alex's mother a cold look. The kind of look that makes you think you're lost and made a mistake coming here. And it was clear that Alex's mother didn't expect that. My mom told her to leave, or she would make her regret her pathetic existence. It's not that my mother is always like that, but before breakfast, you have to be a little careful. Alex's mother's face went from indignant to horrified in a matter of seconds. She isn't used to people talking to her like that. In her world, people smiled at her because she paid. Here, she was going to get some tough love. My mom took a step forward to push her further away from the door and ordered her to leave immediately. She warned her that if she, Alex, or any member of their family showed up at my apartment again, there would be serious consequences. By that point, Alex's mother was already backing away, raising her hand slightly as if trying to defend herself from an attack. She said she just wanted to talk, but my mom told her she wasn't going to talk to anyone here. She told her there was nothing to discuss. She slammed the door shut and turned towards me, saying, "Problem solved." My mother made me laugh, even though I'm not really a morning person before breakfast either. My mom, always so serene, simply went back to her seat as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened, ready to start breakfast. She took a sip of coffee and said that people like Alex's mother feed on drama, but only if you let them. For the rest of the day, I couldn't stop replaying the scene in my head. I felt equally impressed and relieved. Having my mother at home was like having security. Alex's mother never showed up again. Whether it was because of my mom's warning or pure embarrassment, I didn't care. All that matters is that it worked. Update 3. Life had started to get back to a quiet rhythm after the confrontation with Alex's mother. There's no more drama or problems with my ex-fiance's family, so I've started settling into a routine pattern which, although it might seem boring, is what I need. My days were full of work, my evenings spent with my mom, and every now and then, a venting session with my friends on the phone. One afternoon, while reorganizing my closet and making space by getting rid of all the clothes Alex had given me, my phone vibrated. It was a group call from my 3 closest friends, Gina, Steph, and Elena. You know they're good friends. When seeing their name pop up on screen makes you smile, Gina didn't let me greet them properly before she started talking. She was asking if I was sitting down because I wasn't going to believe what they had to tell me. She said it in such a way that I knew right away she was dying to spill the gossip. Steph jumped into the conversation before Gina could continue, saying that Alex had contacted each of them separately, practically begging them to convince me to give him a chance. Apparently, he tried to frame the whole restaurant fiasco and his mother's behavior as a simple misunderstanding. But my friends know very well what happened, and it's impossible for Alex to manipulate them. Elena chimed in, saying that Alex had played the victim, claiming I had exaggerated and that he was desperate to fix things. He just needed a push from my friends to let him talk to me. My friends didn't buy it for a second. Gina was quite harsh with him. She told him he was like a rotten fish, smelly, unpleasant, and only got worse with time. Steph chimed in, comparing him to a used tissue, something you simply throw away without thinking twice because it served its only purpose. Elena topped it off with the cherry on top, telling him that his actions had been embarrassing, manipulative, and absolutely pathetic, and that he had no right whatsoever to try and get back into my life. As they told the story, I couldn't stop laughing. I could perfectly imagine the 3 of them cornering Alex brutally. He had gotten away with something worse only because they didn't confront him together. But even so, he had gotten a good dose of reality when he talked to them. It's good to have them on my side, because they can be quite tough when they want to be, although they only are when a person deserves it. When they finished telling me everything, Gina asked if I was somehow considering giving Alex another chance. She said she had to ask, although she was sure she already knew my answer. I assured her I wasn't. I've already told him we're over, but he's still clinging to the idea. It wouldn't be so bad to have a restraining order just in case if he gets even more insistent. Gina joked, saying that if Alex showed up again, I should call her right away, and she would personally take care of putting him in his place. Knowing her, I believed her. When I told my mom all this, she burst out laughing heartily at my friend's comments. Gina's rotten fish analogy became my favorite, and I started using it as a kind of mental code to remind myself what I had left behind. Update 4. Some people think gossip is only for low-income people, like me, who can't pay a $4,000 bill. That's what I read in one of the comments on my past posts, and it made me laugh a lot. First, because of the absurd idea that gossip is exclusive to one class of people, and second, for assuming I was poor and gossipy just for telling what my fiancé did when I didn't have $4,000 to pay for his whim. Well, this update is for you, to show you that people with money can also be quite gossipy. Although thinking about it, it's likely you don't have money either and you're just some weirdo with emotional incest issues who wants to defend Alex's honor to save your own. I usually see this a lot when someone unfaithful is exposed and desperate defenders appear. It's called projection and it's quite pathetic. If you remember, my final breakup with Alex was in his building. The rents there cost several times what that dinner cost. I could say the cheapest goes for around $8,000. So they aren't exactly low-income people according to the commenter's logic, whose intelligence rivals that of an ant. They shouldn't be gossipy. But someone who heard my conversation with Alex has decided to gossip and did it big time. Someone recorded Alex and his mother talking in the lobby and uploaded the video to social media with the message, "After breaking up with his fiancé, he's decided to give a new relationship with his mother a chance." The post exploded with comments and ridicule while it was available. I guess it was reported or Alex asked someone from the building to take it down, but the consequences are still ongoing. Maybe there's no difference between rich and poor when it comes to gossiping, but I think there is when it comes to judging. Elena's mother-in-law is similar to my ex-mother-in-law in terms of her economic level, but at least she's not as nosy. I can say they have a good relationship because otherwise I think Elena would have already told me. She told me that my ex-mother-in-law has had to stop attending the country club because the scandal there is awful. What people are saying is that she's taken the idea of pretending she belongs to royalty too seriously, even though she doesn't, because she's even implemented incest and everything. Alex doesn't seem to be using the common areas of his building either, because the comments I saw with my own eyes said he hasn't been seen around in a while. I know that over time people will forget this, but the laughs in my friend group are guaranteed for much longer. And if I'm lucky, maybe the reputation of being a mommy's boy lasts forever for Alex. Although that insult isn't mine, it's part of the comments.